Are scholarships truly a thing? Can a normal student really get money that doesn't have to be paid back for college? We've tried looking and everything seems like it's just a scam. If you have felt this way when looking for scholarships for your student, don't worry. I get these questions all the time. But the truth is, scholarships for college are an incredible way to fund your student's education. You just have to know the right steps to find them and how to submit a winning application. So in this video, I'm going to cover everything you need to know about scholarships, where they come from, how you get the money, how your student can be eligible, and so much more. Hello, my name is Jocelyn Pearson, founder of the Scholarship System, where we redefine paying for college to help families avoid student loan debt primarily by receiving scholarships so that they can build a strong financial future, not just for their students, but for the family as well. Now, the reason I'm talking to you about this topic today is because I've had my own experience of securing 6 figures in scholarships, graduating completely debt-free, and in fact, I actually had so much scholarship money that I had an overage check that the university gave me every single semester to help pay for extra expenses beyond my bill. And based on my own experience, our families have now secured over $6.8 million in scholarships, and that number is growing every single day. Now, you might be thinking, I don't know, this sounds too good to be true. Well, I've got tons of stories sprinkled throughout this video that you can learn from, real families that are doing this too. So let's begin with what are scholarships? So scholarships are debt-free monies that do not have to be paid back. So this is money that can help your student pay for their education. And in the end, they don't have to pay a penny of it back to anyone, which is, of course, the best way to pay for school. They can come from the university, they can come from their department, from clubs, organizations, nonprofits, private businesses, the government, and so many more places. In fact, even through the scholarship system, we give out thousands of dollars every single year in scholarships as a way to give back to our students. Now, I have a separate video on the best scholarships of this year, so we're going to link to that at the end of this video so that you can keep on watching and start finding them and applying for them. Now, when it comes to these sources of scholarships, some funds have millions and millions of dollars. Some are like ours, where we have a few $1,000s that we give out every single year to a few lucky winners. So it really can vary based on the source as far as how many scholarships they give out. And that also means that winning scholarships can look completely different based on the student. So for example, one student that comes to mind is Elaine's son. He was able to choose an affordable school and only needed $6,500 per year in order to go to school debt-free. So he was able to apply to 3 smaller scholarships and secured them. And so boom, he got $6,500 and was done. He was able to get through college without having to borrow a penny. Now, then we have, on the other hand, families where maybe they didn't know about scholarships or they didn't think they were eligible for them, and so they didn't apply. So one story here is Heather's daughter, where they found us after their freshman year in college. Freshman year, she had to borrow $9,000. By the end of sophomore year, she was able to break even and not have to borrow a penny. Then for junior year, she actually received an overage check. So this is a perfect example of where this student didn't get anything in high school, and yet she was able to completely change her trajectory for paying for college once she got there. Then we have a student on the complete opposite end of the spectrum who was able to get a complete free ride by the end of high school. Now, she had 2 schools in mind, one where she would have had to borrow $40,000, and that was after the outside scholarships and the merit scholarship she got from the university. Or her second choice school would be break even, free ride, not have to borrow anything. And I'm excited to tell you that she did go with the second option. She realized, you know what? I don't want to borrow $40,000 of debt. It's really not worth going to that number 1 school versus my number 2 school. And so now she just reached out about getting a free ride for a master's degree. So for her, she knew by the end of her senior year in high school that she'd have a free ride. And then lastly, I want to mention Joseph, who he was able to secure $70,000 by the end of senior year, which these days actually is not necessarily a free ride. And so he plans to continue applying as he goes through college, which is completely possible. So I wanted to tell you just all of those stories just so you can get an idea of how different scholarships can be based on your situation. So it doesn't matter if your student is a sophomore, junior in high school, and they want to get ahead and start applying, or if they're already in college or anywhere in between, there are scholarships out there for them. So many ask, can you really pay for college with scholarships? Hopefully now you know the answer is yes, after hearing my own story of getting 6 figures in scholarships and all these other stories of students. Okay, so let's get into how to apply for scholarships. Now, this is another area where it can look completely different by scholarship. Now, there are a few things we want to look for to know that it is legitimate, and that is that it is based on competitiveness. So you will see scholarships where they're based on luck. You just submit your name, your student just has to fill in maybe a few words for an essay, and they're done in 10 minutes. Honestly, these are not worth anyone's time. I have a complete separate video on scholarship scams. We're going to link to that once we publish it. But in the meantime, what I want you to know as a rule of thumb is if it's based on luck, that is out of our control. The only thing we can do is submit more applications. So we don't want to focus on those. We want to focus on ones that are actually based on competitiveness. So when it comes to applying to these, you'll see things like essays, portfolio requirements, or maybe a video essay. Maybe there will be an interview if they're selected as a finalist. I've even seen scholarships that actually have banquets and interview weekends, and then they award the scholarship at the end of the weekend. That was one that I secured. It was $4,000 a year, so it was recurring, which I'll explain in a little bit. And it was a huge win, but it also was a lot of work, more so than just one essay. They might also ask for transcripts or resumes or recommendation letters. So there can be lots of different pieces to these scholarships. But the good news is that you can often reuse a lot of these materials. In fact, that's something that we cover a lot inside the scholarship system course. Now, if you want to learn where you can find these applications and how to identify what are legitimate and which ones are not, I am going to link to a free training in the description, but at the end, register for that free training so you can get started. So that said, just a quick list of where to find them. You can look at counselors' offices, guidance offices, maybe the department at the university. There's a scholarship book that you can find on Amazon or in the library so that you don't have to pay for it yourself. There is the financial aid office through the university, search engines, scholarship search engines, social media, and so much more. But again, in that free training, I'll cover a unique way that we find legitimate scholarships with less competition. That is a little bit different than what most people talk about, but in my opinion, it is the absolute best way to find scholarships. Now, the next question is, when should we be applying? So if your student, again, is sophomore, junior in high school, it is not too early. In fact, if I could, I would have everyone working on scholarships no later than junior year in high school. And the reason is, first off, there's scholarships that they can win. But secondly, when it comes to senior year, between admissions and all the senior year stuff, it can be overwhelming. And so a lot of students end up waiting until spring semester, senior year to apply for scholarships, which is fine, except they just missed an entire semester of tons of deadlines. So that fall semester, senior year, actually has a lot of deadlines. So if you can get your student applying earlier, that means that they are going to naturally have less competition just because a lot of students tend to procrastinate on this. Now, if your student's already in the end of their senior year, or maybe they are already heading to college or already there, that's no problem. In fact, my last check that I cashed for scholarships was on my way home from college graduation. You heard that correctly, college graduation. So I kept on applying every single year and brought in more and more money. So it's never too early to begin, but it's also never too late. One quick story with this, Jennifer's daughter, Sydney, she actually found us summer of senior year. So she already graduated from high school. They did not think they would be eligible. They were not low income, and so they assumed they would never get scholarships. Well, after going through our course, she, within 1 year, by the end of her freshman year in college, she is now at $20,000 in wins. The good news is there are scholarships out there for almost everyone. Even if your student has a 3.0 GPA, 2.8, you can find ones that don't even ask for GPA, or maybe ones that have nothing to do with your income range, ones that are based on their career path or just their interest, or maybe just based on where you live. There can be so many different ways to be eligible for scholarships. Now, let's say we submitted scholarship applications and we want to know, well, how do we get the money? There are two main ways that scholarships give out awards to students. The first is they'll send the money directly to the university. This is actually how we do it at the scholarship system so that we can ensure that the money is used on the bill first. Now, if your student gets enough money to where the bill is completely covered, plus some, like I did, then the university will cut a check for the remaining amount and your student can use it as they need to. The alternative is when they send the money directly to a student. Now, the last area I want to talk about with scholarships is, are they normally every single year or are they normally one-time wins? This, again, can vary. So like I mentioned earlier, I won a recurring $4,000 scholarship. So it can be recurring. A lot of them will be one-time. In fact, the ones that we give out through the scholarship system, that is a one-time win. But even a single win of $600 when we only have to do a couple hours of work, that's a huge win. So don't ignore the ones that are single wins. Make sure that your student is applying to those as well. Woo! So that was a lot. I just gave you a ton of basic information around scholarships, such as where to find them, when to apply for them, how to get the money from them, and so much more. Now, like I mentioned earlier, I do have a free 1-hour training all about how to find scholarships and help your student build a list of legitimate ones with less competition. So you can register for that free training anytime you wish. It's in the description. Now, if you found this video helpful, please click the subscribe button. We are releasing a new video every single week. And also comment below. Did you find this helpful? Was anything new to you? Or do you have any questions based on something I said? You can also comment with any other topics that you want me to make a video on. So I watch these comments. I love seeing them. I love chatting back. So make sure you leave one below. All right, so there you have it. And again, I'm Jocelyn Pearson with the Scholarship System, and you are now set to start applying for scholarships. So get out there, start helping your student build their list, and let us know how it goes. I'll see you in the next video.